Horror Movie Night listeners, we are back with another episode. It is our last episode before the greatest season holiday that we all know and love. In honor of 10 years, we went with Paranorman.
Yeah,
which
we did.
I enjoyed this movie when it came out. My co-host for Christmas 365 loves this movie. He's gone on the record of, well, he's mostly done a smear campaign against Hocus Pocus in defense of Paranorman. Has been his whole thing of, hey,
season.
Yeah, like it's mostly like, hey, Freeform, maybe instead of playing Hocus Pocus 31 times, you could maybe play Paranorman a couple times on your show.
That's not a smear campaign. That's just being realistic.
Absolutely.
I forgot how fucking charming this movie is. But within like 10 minutes, I was like, I love this.
Yeah, I took very few notes.
Yeah, I mean, I took a decent amount of notes. I will say one of the only like strikes that I'll give this movie, if it even is a strike, is that one of my first notes was that I would absolutely watch a feature-length stop-motion zombie movie, because it starts off with like him watching that zombie movie. Mm-hmm. But then when the zombies actually show up in this movie, I feel like the movie gets a little bit worse. Like I actually like the movie more when it's just a weird-ass kid talking to ghosts in his town. But it was still fun. The movie kicks off so beautifully with this feature presentation, grindhouse like music, the great like. It is so good. Oh my god!
Wait, Kyle, is this your first watch?
This was my first watch.
Ooh,
yeah.
what a way to come into it! That's amazing.
What a joy! What an absolute joy this movie was. I'm sure I'm just going to echo what y'all are saying, but it was. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I thought it was. I mean, so we're talking about it's not really. It doesn't feel like a kids movie by any means.
It was marketed as such. Though.
Exactly. We're talking about a marketed as kids movie that came out for me. It like in my brain, it's like Corpse Bride, Frankenweenie. This.
I think you're not wrong with the Frankenweenie full length. I think that was
yes, Frankenweenie full length. Excuse me.
Corpse Bride was definitely.
I know. It's not
before this.
Yeah,
right?
It's not even in the same really conversation.
Well, I think stylistically it's similar.
Yeah, I guess but time wise, it's not really in the conversation. But my brain hadn't sorted those out. I didn't give really any of them any thought. And this was such a. I mean, so no expectation, like no knowledge or expectation, and what a fucking fun movie. It's so charming, so smart, but also didn't kill me with references or like it was great.
I think I said this to you in a text message, but like what I like about the movie is that a lot of the movies that we do, the tradition for Horror Movie Night has usually been we spend all year round talking about horror films. Let's talk about a kids movie that has like horror elements or like takes place at Halloween time. So we've done like Hocus Pocus and Space Invaders, and when we were doing this on Reddit Horror Club, we had done like Casper, like that vein of movies. This feels different because while those are like kids movies that have horror elements, this feels like a horror movie that has kid elements in it in a lot of ways. Like it follows. Like, you could have done this as a live-action movie, and it would have been easily a PG-13 or even an R-rated movie with, like, what they're showing. But because it's in stop motion, it's like, oh, they can step on a brain. They can,
you can have a 3-minute fight with rigor mortis uncle, like a dead uncle whose tongue falls on his face. I was sitting there watching that being like, I don't know how they got away with it. It's so interesting because it feels like it's on the other end of that like topic of like we talk so much about like how did this get an R rating with such a grotesque effect or whatever, and now we're like to me I was like how did they get PG with this dead dude's tongue all over this little boy? Yeah. Like, this is insane.
But you're right. Even the reference points,
it felt like Dead Alive in my head. Yeah. I was like, it's Peter Jackson going crazy.
Yeah,
Peter Jackson for kids.
Yeah.
So this is I never know how to properly pronounce this company's name. Is it Laika? Laika?
Yeah.
We'll say Laika, whatever. Yeah. They have made some of the most impressive stop motion films of the last 10 years. They did Missing Link. there's a ton that they've done. This is, I think, one of their best, and they have a very it doesn't feel like Nightmare or Corpse Bride or Coraline. Those movies all almost feel too fluid. Yeah. This almost has like a Wallace and Gromit level of it's just like it feels just off, but that's where the charm is.
Yeah.
So the movie starts off with our main character Norman watching a really low budget zombie movie that has a couple great gags. My favorite being the actress pushing the boom mic away from her before she screams.
So good.
like there's those types of jokes, but then you find out that he sees ghosts. He's talking to his dead grandmother in the living room who's complaining about the movie and how cold it is in the house. He asks his parents to turn down the thermostat, and that's when you realize that he is not keeping this ghost thing a secret. This isn't like the kid in The Sixth Sense who's internalizing this. He's like, yo, I'm seeing ghosts everywhere.
Somebody listen to me.
Someone please pay attention to me. And everyone writes it off. The amount of celebrity guest voices in this movie between Anna Kendrick voicing his sister, Leslie Mann as the dad, Jeff Garlin as the father, or his mom. Sorry, Jeff Garlin as the dad, Leslie Mann as the mom, and John Goodman as his crazy uncle. You've got a stacked voice talent there. But
did you notice the weirdest voice credit on Wiki? Jared Dines is quote unquote bully. And I don't know if you guys know who Jared Dines is, but he's a super famous YouTuber. He plays metal guitar, and he got super famous for making these videos that were kind of different faces that different types of guitarists make.
I know these guys' videos.
Yeah. And he kind of looks like a douchebag. He just kind of looks like whatever. But
so he looks like a guy who plays metal. Got it.
He's a guy that he looks like a guy that plays For Your Strong all the time.
Gotcha.
But no, he's actually seems to be a good dude. He was on the I don't know if you guys know anything about Sunrise Skater Kids, which is Jared Along.
Yes.
He and Jared Along are best friends apparently, and he was on the Sunrise Skater Kids record that Jared Along did, and then I'm pretty sure that he helped with at least some of the writing. I know he did a solo on the it was the death metal, the deathcore record that came out in 2020 that Jared Along did. Vermicide Violence, the Praxis of Prophylaxis. It's that was my favorite record of 2020 because it had a song about COVID-19. But anyway, it's just so weird to see Jared Dines' name come up on Wikipedia as a voice actor in 2012. Just very, very interesting. It blew my mind. But also, I'm probably gonna say her name wrong. Jadelle Furland, the girl who plays Aggie, the voice of Aggie, the witch child in it. She is the main child actor in Silent Hill 2006. So I feel like that really puts into perspective how much this is a horror movie, just kind of wrapped in the dressings of a kid's movie.
But it is also just the moment when I texted you guys was so early in the movie, and it's the moment where he's walking to school, and you it does that cool camera movement where he's talking to seemingly no one on his walk, and then the camera kind of pans around him and just reveals all of these ghosts looming through town who all know him. They all love him. He makes sure to say hello to every single one of them. Norman could very easily have a somewhat normal life and ignore them, but I think it says so much about his character that he still acknowledges them as if he would acknowledge any other person saying hello to him.
Well, it certainly helps his whole cause throughout the whole movie, right? He does not stray from being a kind and gentle soul, even in the face of being bullied and all this shit. He's still a weirdo.
Well, and that's
but
which leads to one of the coolest facts about this movie, and a beautiful quote that came from this fact. So this is the first ever mainstream children's film to have a gay character in it, and B, the first ever PG film to be nominated for a GLAAD award. because of the reveal at the end with Mitch, where this whole time you've got this like jacked big brother that Anna Kendrick's character is like swooning all over. And then he just at the very end is like, oh my God, you'd love my boyfriend. It's so beautifully placed in there because it's not really made a joke. It's just like, hey, this character has been gay this whole movie and he's just as normal as everybody else. Like, it's like kind of drawing this very clear line in the sand. But
for 10 years ago, that's a lot bigger deal than it
than it seems now. Yeah.
Which I mean, like I want it to be passe, or not passe, but I want it to be like super normal,
normalized.
Normalized, and I feel like Paranorman does kind of an unthinkable thing, or like a super surprising thing, where it's able to normalize an LGBTQ character, and it doesn't feel like it's doing it to make a point.
Well, especially because the point is the last thing we learn about him. You know, like the whole. I think that's the.
It's not a
thing.
point, and it's not a bit. Like Matt said, It's not a bit. It's just very clever. I think that this movie has really clever beats. I mean, I think that it's written incredibly well. There's no denying that it looks awesome, but I think it also, just the pacing is great. It's not a boring movie. It's so funny when it first came out. I think Megan and I rented it, and then maybe a year or two later, around Halloween, it came out on Netflix, and Megan was super hyped about it. She like posted on Facebook like, "Everyone listen," all in caps. Paranorman is on Netflix, and then in lowercase. That is all. Work. Which is wild for my wife, because she likes spooky shit. She likes Halloween, and this movie definitely feels like a Halloween movie, but she does not like horror, and so it really kind of feeds that piece in a horror adjacent mind of like an Addams Family type movie, which is great because we need more of those, where they're sinister, but it's also like the stakes are kind of pointless at the end, which is great. I love that.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
It has a lot of heart. I love it.
Yeah. Here's the thing I wanted to call out, though, about the character of Mitch. So obviously, 2012, someone was going to have a complaint. And that person was Nancy French of the National Review Online, who said that the film could lead parents to having... could lead parents to having to answer unwanted questions about sex and homosexuality on the ride home from the movie theater. But when pressed about this, the co-director, Chris Butler, said that the character is explicitly connected to the film's message. And the exact quote he said was, "If we're saying to anyone that watches the movie that you shouldn't judge other people, then we've got to have strength to our own convictions in the movie."
I love that.
So I do.
That's
like
definitely a different read in 2022 than 2012.
Yeah,
no kidding.
But I think that he's right. Like, I think that beyond the fact that you have this character that for the entire movie you are, as an audience member, positive they are one way, based on all of the information put in front of you.
Right. So, and that's every character throughout the movie. Like he's completely right. That's the whole point of the movie. So you can do it on a saving the town scale, or you can do it on a just learning about your fellow person scale. And it's the same throughout. It's the same through line. That's a brilliant way to put it.
Also, that National Review Online is a conservative rag, so fuck that lady. And,
of course. I was pretty confident that was the case, Scott. So let's talk about who I think is the star of this movie, Neil. The second Neil's first real line in this movie. Neil. This line alone makes me laugh so much, because they're doing this play about the hanging of the witch, and it gets to the point where they're supposed to hang the witch, and he's the tree that she has to be hung from. And he goes,
"Yes."
He goes, "This is my moment." As he walks to center stage. But Neil is just one of the only moments that really generated tears in my eyes while watching this movie, because this is definitely a "Did you cry, Matt? Yes, I did" type moment.
I don't need to ask those questions anymore. I know you too well.
It is the moment where, because I relate it to this particular moment for sure. It's the moment where Norman begrudgingly goes to Neil's house because Neil's like, do you think I could talk to my dog? Like, could you talk to my dog? Could you play with my dog? And like Neil's throwing the stick, knowing that the dog's not going to be able to fetch it, but he's throwing it because he knows that there's a ghost of his dog now in the backyard. And he keeps trying to get Norman to throw the stick. And like, to one extent, it's almost like this extended Family Guy type joke of them like trying to force him to play the stick. But to me, it captures this beautiful moment where you are an outcast in school and you meet another outcast and like immediately have that feeling of not being alone anymore from that. Like, and there was something about when I watched that scene that resonated with me so hard that like, it wasn't like a full blown cry, but I was like, oh my God, like I'm tearing up. Like cause it hit
just
on
a little bit of precipitation on your face.
Yeah. No, it was like someone had chopped an onion and left it in the bed. And I was like, oh no.
Your first mistake was watching this in bed.
Yeah, but
that's
the other
immediate like 10% more likelihood of crying.
To cry, yeah.
The other Neil line that I had to laugh at is with him and the bully, where he says something about McLovin, where he says something about his boobs, and he's like, they're pecs, and then he slaps and he goes, ow, my boobs.
I burst out laughing at that scene. That whole front like section of it is joke after joke. That's so good. That play where they cut to the play,
they should. Yeah,
where they cut to the play and they're singing "Season of the Witch." I fucking lost my mind. And the one audience member, you suck.
The other laugh out loud for me is the 1-2 punch of Neil texting Norman, and Norman's cell phone ringer is the Halloween theme, and it says, come to your window, and it is like a perfect recreation of the Mike Myers standing by the laundry. Like, it's so good.
You want to hear something blasphemous, though? The subtitle on the Roku channel said it was the Friday the 13th theme.
It says Friday the 13th theme on the DVD.
It does it?
Thing too, yeah.
That has to be them trolling you. Like I feel like they were too in on it, and they were like,
started scratching my neck beard.
Yeah,
that's the wrong theme.
There are definitely jokes. Like we said, this is not like, it's a kids movie. I'm not gonna be like, this isn't for kids. Like, if you got kids, you should absolutely be showing them Paranorman. But there are jokes that I'm like, I can't believe this got through. And like, one of the ones again is Neil when Norman's sister's looking for him, and Neil's brother's like, are you upstairs freeze framing mom's workout video again?
There's a lot of ass focused moments in this movie. From the jump, from when he's watching the feature presentation of the zombie chasing that woman, and the ass is just so, it's almost Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque in the red shorts. It's very very upfront.
And Massacre?
Come on, Scott.
You don't even know her.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. All the way up until like Alvin grabbing the sister's ass when they're all lined up to try to stop the town, to try to stop the mob. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. Fantastic.
There was another really dumb line that got a laugh out of me was from Mitch when Norman's sister's complimenting his deltoids, and he goes, I don't use deltoids. You can test me.
You can test me. God, I almost want to rewatch it. Like, actually, I have to watch the last hour because Carly and I were watching it, and we had to stop because we had to go to bed, and I had to finish it for this show. But I'm going to watch the last hour or the last 45 minutes again tonight, which will be a joy.
I also did not anticipate hearing some Dizzy Rascal in the middle.
Dude, the Dizzy Rascal needle drop was fucking insane. I stood up from my couch.
Just like out of nowhere, there's just British hip hop. And I love that he's just trying to show off to the girls by dancing to this song outside. Like, that is such a, like, the only thing I could compare it to is it feels like it's out of like Hot Rod or like Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's just like, I do love movies like those two films and this, where you capture the other element of childhood, which is like what in your middle school brain is a very impressive thing to show off to girls.
Yeah. And it's that for sure. You've watched a lot of Yo MTV Raps. And you thought that this was cool.
You need to share the knowledge.
But yeah, I mean, it is fun. It's scary. as gory as a stop motion movie can get.
Pretty much.
And I'll talk about my double feature later, but there is a movie that they have talked about remaking on and off for like 20 years. And if you got the team that did Paranorman to remake it, I would be super on board with it. But we'll get to that in a couple minutes.
Now I'm trying to figure out what you're going to say.
Oh, hello there. I didn't see you come in. I'm Shane O'Hare of the Geekscape Games Podcast, the #1 video game podcast on the Geekscape.network. Join myself, Derek Krenevelt, and a guest every fortnight as we discuss video game news, video game reviews, and dissections. That's Geekscape Games every 2 weeks on Geekscape.net.
Does anyone have any stray notes that they want to cover before we dive into the double features portion?
Beyond just how much I love Anna Kendrick, no.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then let's talk some double features real quick. And
so how do we want to?
Well, I'll start since I already kind of led into it.
Okay.
Monster Squad. If
you son of a bitch!
If you were to remake Monster Squad in this style of stop motion, I think that is the only way to do a really good Monster Squad movie. Because I think Creature will... I want to see more than just stop motion zombies and ghosts. I want a stop motion Wolfman. I want a stop motion Frankenstein roaming around. I want a stop motion character going, you guys are chicken shit. Like, I want all of it.
They might have to edit that down. I don't know if we can have chicken shit in a kids movie in 2024 by the time that would be.
Sorry that I just inadvertently just rolled in and ripped everybody's double feature out from underneath him.
Yeah, dog. I have a backup because I was pretty sure that he was going to go for Monster Squad because anytime Matt can, he will. Coraline, I know that you mentioned it. I was specifically not mentioning it because I was like, that's my backup double feature if Matt, screws me over. But I mean, I really like Coraline. I think that Coraline hits the same really dark beats, but I think it's actually much darker than Paranorman. I just mean that it's darker than your average kids Halloween movie, which I see them as kids.
I was going to say that's also part of just the source material. You're coming from a Neil Gaiman novel to begin with, so it's going to be fucking dark.
But what they got away with is impressive.
Like every time I watch it, I imagine the idea of having buttons sewn over top of my eyes, and I'm like, ugh.
And Matt's like, how am I gonna cry with buttons on my eyes? No,
not my eyes. That's where my tears are born.
Ooh, what was that sound?
Oh. Well, I really should save it for. Well, it's not even really what did we watch. I just want to talk about it. So, my double feature is Beetlejuice. I think that you just have a fucking fun movie that you probably shouldn't have seen as a kid. Like I just feel like we had some friends over on Sunday. I told them we were watching Paranorman. They have a 6-year-old that they were like, well, we tried to watch Paranorman, but that first opening scene with the zombies and the brains, we were like 6 years. Like 6 years old is like just too young, maybe for some folk,
Sure.
Which I totally get. And Beetlejuice was that for me. Like I watched that way too young.
Matt watched it at the perfect age because he decided to reenact the nice fucking model line for his mom at the park.
Everybody.
Yeah. And he was like fucking 5 years old.
Grabbed my crotch, yelled honk, 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 screamed nice fucking model. It was great. It was exactly what a 4-year-old's supposed to do when they're
4.
at the park.
Oh, I said 5. God damn it.
I can't believe he did that in the womb. But I just think Beetlejuice is just a great B picture. Like if you watch Paranorman and if you have kids, they go to bed, you watch Beetlejuice. It's like it's just a perfect vibe, I think. But yeah.
Beer time.
I'm drinking. Somebody at our liquor store special ordered a case of a beer called Hellraiser, and I couldn't pass it up. But it is a amber non-alcoholic beer, and the dude swears by it. So I have my Hellraiser NA, and it's because on this day today, a day that'll live in infamy, the new Hellraiser trailer dropped.
Yep.
And I would not shut the fuck up about it at work. I would not stop. Anybody, everybody, even if you didn't talk to me, I said something about it, or
he hit all the departments that he ignores regularly, and he's like,
yeah. Oh, you're looking at Saki? Let me tell you about Hellraiser. And look, this is gonna basically be my what did you watch this week for this week?
It's the Hellraiser trailer.
The Hellraiser trailer. And you can watch it too. I shared it on my story. And I'll share it on my story every day until it. No, I'm just kidding. But I realized in talking to so many people about the trailer today how. And obviously, if you've heard me on this podcast, you know how much Clive Barker and Hellraiser means to me. I didn't realize that it was going to just, I don't know. It actually affected me. There's a lot of shit that washes over me now as a lifelong horror fan and as a horror fan who's been on the internet too much and like has seen the shit.
Been hurt by Fangoria too many times.
Hurt by Fango, but also caught it's an abusive relationship with Fangoria.
We need to make shirts that say Fangoria support group.
Yeah. Did you read in 2007 too? But Hellraiser is certainly in my top 5 horror movies of all time. Clive Barker is probably my favorite writer, horror and beyond of all time, and it made me excited. I feel excited about it. David Bruckner is a director that I feel pretty strongly about. The Signal was really
he's the guy who did The Signal.
He's one of them, which I actually want to propose. We talk about it's not technically an anthology, though it is a movie directed by 3 people broken into 3 parts. It all takes place around the same event. It's just a pitch.
I would toss my vote towards it. Actually,
I'm gonna put it on the list.
The only reason why we might not do it is because it's too fucking good for us.
It could be.
Sometimes we need to switch out the bullshit with an actually like entertaining, good film. We need to bring our chops up sometimes.
I think it would be a potentially fun one. I'll put it on the list, but it's certainly not one I'm going to pick probably for a while because I got a lot of other shit to subject us to.
I mean, we got a lot of stuff on Tubi that we need to
There's a lot on Tubi. And Tubi ain't quitting. They're going to come out with a Terror Train remake, which
Tubi is paying for a Terror Train
produced a Terror Train remake that's going to premiere at Brooklyn Horror Fest this year. In October.
It needs to come out on Tubi for VOD or streaming or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be straight
on
to
New
Tubi.
Year's Eve.
On New Year's Eve, right?
I mean, Scott, I know we've been dancing around this, but maybe this is the year we finally rip the Band-Aid off and do Terror Train.
Yeah.
Because I don't hate Terror Train. I just don't think it's
I think the Terror Train
bad enough
is
or good enough
incredibly boring.
We could probably get a good episode out of it.
I think that we could talk some shit about it.
Kyle's under attack in the
I'm under attack. It's the blurred screen. It's actually me looking at the camera, confused about where I am.
I was actually thinking that you're in the fucking Amityville house because...
Get out!
Get out! My What Did I Watch is not going to be... I was going to do a What Did I Watch. I'm going to do what Did I Read because it dovetails with what Kyle was talking about. I have been very luxuriously working my way for the last couple months. I don't want it to be done. And so I've been working on Books of Blood, volumes 1 through 3, Clive Barker, for months now. I started it in August and I've just been enjoying it ever since. I'll read like a story a week. I really am just trying to make it last because I know that there are 2 more volumes after it, but when they're done, they're done. And I absolutely love short horror. Short form horror is just my absolute favorite. So I've been having nightmares about the stuff that I read in the stories because they're so good. It's wild because it's not that he writes them super well. I think that he writes them in a very specific style that's good. It's not my favorite writing style, but he's just so clever with the plot. There's one actually that should not in any way, shape, or form be a horror story on its surface, but in the hands of Clive Barker in the 80s, it fucking was. It's called In the Hills, the Cities. Do you guys know this one?
I love that one.
Matt, it is about these 2 cities, rural cities in Slovenia, I want to say, or Russia, I can't quite remember. Once every decade, they go out into this field and they lash themselves together. Each city lashes itself, humans lash themselves together into giants, and then they are supposed to fight. And an absolute tragedy happens, and literally everybody in both cities dies. It's basically like the most interesting way to think about a Wicker Man that I've ever. I mean, that's the first thing that came to mind when the truth of the story was coming to fruition. It's just so good. Like, and he does stuff that's like, at its core, you're thinking, okay, this is a story about like a demonic house guest or whatever, but it's done in such a clever way. And then like the Midnight Meat Train, which I would love to do as a pick on the show. I may do it next year, strictly due to the fact that it is a Clive Barker and it's got Bradley Cooper in it, but it's hard to find streaming, so it's been on my long list. But Midnight Meat Train as a story is, I mean, kind of like this subterranean vampire story, but only someone with incredibly lateral thinking could come up with such a great plot, because it's really not about the words that he uses. It's like the plot and the fact that he is so, at least in these short stories, he's just so incredibly clever about the way that he presents these very, very unique, horrifying situations. I'm absolutely in love with it. And Clive Barker, I actually had a dream this morning after I fed the dogs. I went back to sleep, and I had a dream that I fucking straight up to Stephen King's face told him that I preferred Clive Barker's short stories to his. That's not a bit.
Maybe one day you'll get that
literally
opportunity at a con.
Please no.
All right. So,
and Matt, what about you?
I'll keep mine short because I was not actually a big fan of the movie, but I just haven't watched too much else. Disney Plus during D23 dropped a whole bunch of content, and the Pinocchio live action is not very good, guys.
Oh, no. I'm glad that you watched it so I don't have to.
It's, Tom Hanks is not a singer, so having him sing 2 or 3 of the songs was not great, and Pinocchio doesn't need to be over 2 hours long. That's a bad call. And like, I genuinely think that the boy turning into a donkey in the original cartoon is one of the earliest examples of true horrific filmmaking. Like, it is.
That's some drama.
Yeah, that is like a legitimately scary. Even as an adult watching it, it's like, God, this is unsettling. Like him screaming for his mom as he's transforming and stuff. It's just really. And then just, I don't know, watching a not a very great kid actor CGI into a donkey just like doesn't have the same power. It's fine. I also, I don't know, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the voice of Jiminy Cricket, which I thought could be really exciting, except that he is literally just doing an impression of the voice actor who voiced Jiminy Cricket for the entire time. And I'm like, I don't know, like, why pay Joseph Gordon-Levitt to not sound like Joseph Gordon-Levitt for 2 hours?
Why not pay him to sound like Don John as Jiminy fucking Cricket? Like,
I was just like,
incredible.
Or just find, at that point, a person who's a full-time voice actor to just do the voice. Like, I don't understand why
you don't get butts and seats from, thirsty moms.
Listen, they already have Tom Hanks there to bring the thirsty moms.
Those are the thirsty G-MILFs, dude.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, it's not. I was kind of disappointed by it because I think Pinocchio, of the golden age, which I believe is like the first 6 or 7 Disney movies, I think Pinocchio is the best of the golden age animated films. So, I had my expectations up here. They're very low, but I mean, maybe because these are so low that in like a month or two when we get the Del Toro one on Netflix, like that will be like, so, because that's the other fun.
It can't possibly be bad.
I forgot that there was.
Yeah. No,
he's gonna lean into the body horror for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say Del Toro's a little new to doing horrific fantasy films, but I think this might, for this being his first attempt at the genre, I think he'll do great. But that was Paranorman from 2012. Happy Halloween from Horror Movie Night. Here's my hint for next week. Next week we're gonna talk about a movie that, until I was reading the Wikipedia page, I was positive was based on a Clive Barker book, but was based on a book about 100 years before that.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.